Welcome to Rough Drafts, How God Writes His Love in Our Stories, a podcast that explores the faith journeys of our friends and neighbors in Burns, Tennessee. Everyone has a story to tell, and in this podcast, we'll hear powerful and inspiring stories of how God works in the ordinary lives of people like you and me. Our stories are unfinished and perfectly imperfect. They are just rough drafts, a glimpse of what is to come because God is still at work, writing plot twists, introducing new characters, and bringing good even from the most challenging circumstances. Join us as we see what God is up to in our stories. Here's your host, Matthew Hyatt.
You know you have reached a certain level of celebrity when you can be introduced with just one or two words. When you are Sonny or Cher or Bono. Today we have somebody who is in that class of people. He is Big Al. That's what everybody knows him in. Al Griffin, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, it's a marvelous thing to do.
Man, this is fun.
Yeah, anytime you talk about the Lord, I'm in.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I love your perspective. And one of the first things that I truly loved about you was the first Sunday I heard you give a communion talk. And you got to the giving part, and you said, now here's my favorite part of church. And you were talking about the contribution.
Yeah.
And I started laughing because I thought you were being sarcastic and making a joke. And then I realized, no, he's 100% the real deal. And it made me like giving in church because of what you said that day.
It's a chance to give back.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
good.
there it is. A lot of people, the Lord even said, I don't want it if you ain't thought about giving it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it.
Yeah.
It's people like, I love this time of year.
Yeah, because
people
you
give
stuff.
You can give stuff people can't give to the rest of the year.
That's right.
And it's because they think about our Savior. It's on their mind. Everybody always humbug Christmas and say, I don't know about Christmas. It ain't a religious holiday. I said, anytime you can get people thinking about the Lord, it's a holiday.
Yeah, that's right. And I defy you to find one day in the year that's not a holy day.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah.
Every day's holy. And some days are a little holier than others.
Yeah, every day's blessed.
Absolutely.
It depends on how your decision of that bless is. You can glorify in it or you can be mad in it, but you're blessed.
You just decide what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, Marsha's episode, she did 2 episodes, and it was super.
She's always that way.
Yeah.
She's always one up in everybody.
So are you going to have to do 3 just to kind of put it back now?
And she wrote it all my thumb there anyway. So.
She stole all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Al, I have no clue what you're going to tell me, but I have one thing I need to do. I was given a gift a while, and friends, if you're listening, I want you to know what happens right now is real. I'm not faking this. Hang on.
There I am. Starbucks man.
At the end of Camp with Pegram, I was given a life-size replica of Al that has been in my office since July, and I've been waiting for this moment. And Al, the best thing is we put this in my office, and I didn't tell Penny, and I didn't mean to, but she came in one night, and the lights were off. You almost killed poor Penny over there because there was a 6-foot-tall man in the office in the middle of the night.
First lady ever killed was Starburst.
That's right. In the picture, he's holding a handful of Starburst candy.
Yeah, I had a good crew for years. The kids found me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's all, I just kind of same way we find God. He's standing there with his hand out here. Here's your candy.
Yeah, here's your Starburst.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, what's your God story, Al?
My God story is I grew up a good part of myself early years here in Burns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Played the league baseball field right here. Pitched several perfect games.
Did you?
I was a house pitcher.
Really?
And my players would go out and sit down. When we went out, I would strike up by outs. I just go out and sit down on the way. But, in anything, like anything, if we played 20 games a week, I pitched 20 games a week.
Oh,
I was the pitcher.
Yeah.
I had one arm out. Time I was in high school, it was gone. Like I had a rubber band on my elbow. But I still loved it and enjoyed it. Bill and James Tibble, loved them. They were my coaches. And they were like another family to me. I come from a halfway large family, just 6 of us, but we didn't have a lot. So, time with them was marvelous because they had a big family. They'd have reunions and it looked like, Well, hundreds.
Yeah.
To me. But I grew up here in Burns. Went to church here in a little white church, I was trying to recall. We had a real good buddy that was a preacher. I can't remember if he preached here or White Bluff. His name was Dan. Dan something. He was a young guy. Super guy. He used to take us places. Anyway, I admired him. But my walk with the Lord came from my grandfather. I was, like I say, I love sports and was pretty good. The Lord blessed me. I was pretty good at everything I tried. I had a will to be good. If I was going to do it, I was going to do it good. So, but when church time came, whether it be Sunday night, Sunday morning, or Wednesday night, there Paul pulled up, blinked his lights, and I knew it was time I had to go.
Yeah.
Dirty as a pig, dust, dirt all over me. What church? I loved him to death. He took me fishing, hunting. Our family broke up. Our father left when I was young enough. I don't even remember him leaving. He was in the war and had some struggles with that, but he left. So left my mom with 4 of us, and so she remarried a guy from here in Burns, R.C. Gray. He actually ran. I don't know if you got how much you know about the history. There used to be a Reader's service station right here at Public Oil.
Yeah. And
a grocery store right across from it. Okay. Well, he ran them for all the time we lived there. And I would, pretty amazing thing, had no push mower. I'd found somebody give me, I think an uncle gave it to me, and I got it running. And I would push it over there, and I'd get me a oil can full of gas and take off. And I mowed yards and Burns all summer long for $1 a yard. Wow. Didn't matter what size it was, I got $1. Woo. And that's all I did, mow yard and play ball.
I'd kill to pay $1 a yard right now.
Yeah. Well, my gas was a nickel maybe. There was a little store there, a restaurant there too, called the White Way. I don't know if you remember much about it. Gemma Pargo owned it. But he had 2 boys, and I played ball with him. But it was, I'd mow yards, and I'd go in there and give me a hamburger. And I could go over to Bobby Reader's there and get a 16-ounce RLC Cola moon pie for about 20 cents.
RC Cola and moon pie.
Oh, couldn't be any better.
That's right.
But I wasn't selfish, I would take the money home and give it to my mom to here. She would, most of the time, Friday nights was hamburger night because she worked and my stepfather, R.C. Gray, worked. And so I'd buy hamburger meat, cheapest thing you could buy, and we'd have hamburgers. But it was a great time, good time. Loved it. Loved the people here at church. First job I ever had to get paid for other than mowing yards. The guy that run the post office, and I've been trying to recall his name. I hadn't come up with it. But he hired me and my older brother one summer to plant pine trees over here. You know where the fire tower is?
Yeah.
Well, we planted all the pine trees.
Really?
The whole summer.
Are those the pine trees they're cutting down right now?
Might be. I don't know.
Seriously,
you know how you go in that underpass? It's short, and then the fire tower's back there? It was all back in there.
That's my favorite part of Montgomery Bell Park.
Yeah.
Down there to Werewolf Springs.
Yeah. I didn't know it was cutting them down, but anyway. We planted them, and he would pay us, and my mom would get up, and she left before we did, but she'd fix us lunch. It was always a biscuit and potatoes, I mean, they were good because I could bring them to school, and people tried to trade me out of them. But it was a good time. Loved it. Loved living in Burns. Walked the streets all the time. Popped tar bubbles with my toes, and picked up baled hay barefooted. That's how tough my feet was. Yeah, I can't even hardly get across the floor now barefooted. We were tough. Guy had a grocery store down here named Carl Bishop. Was right there. I used to live right beside the church. There was a white house there. I think the Browns owned it. J.C. Brown, not J.C., but Roy Brown. Yeah, I think he owned it. We lived there. Funny things you think of. Miss Eileen Stewart was our principal. And I'd rather take a beating any day than her wear you out with her tongue. You could go in there, and then when you call out, you might feel like you're in a wagon rut.
Yeah.
She could make you feel so bad. And a great lady, loved her to death. I mean, she's just good. I talked to Gemma Pargrove. Some of the people will remember him. He was a janitor at school, and he's also a school bus driver. And I remember I used to ride the school bus on Friday evenings to White Bluff, so I stayed at my grandmother's to bust up her stove wood. My grandfather, I didn't finish that, but he passed away when I was like 7 or 8. And I loved him. He was a little bit of church there in White Bluff, isn't there anymore, called Pleasant View, and he was one of the leaders there. And he's
At the corner of Pleasant View Road and not School Road, Hawkins.
Yeah. But there was church there, and him and his brother-in-law, J.Y. Lowe, kind of was, they didn't call themselves elders, but they were the elders and the overseers. Love going there.
Yeah, in every church, there's people who might not have the title, but they really are.
Yeah. But he would teach a class. It was amazing. Church wasn't very big. I was young, so I don't know how big it was. I know it filled up, but it wasn't very big to fill up. But he taught a class, and it was young people class or something, I guess. I was in it. I got to be in it before he passed away. And it had like first grade, probably 12th grade. But something he always did that stuck in my mind deep was he would once a year load up everybody that wanted to go, and he'd take us to the prison up there, right there in West Nashville.
Oh, the
big prison, yeah. You know, and he knew him, and they would open up the gates, and they would intentionally slam them gates when we went through them.
Yeah.
And he'd make a point, say, all right, boys and girls, you know what that means? No, you have no more freedom.
Yeah.
I think about people in jail now that got all the freedom in the world, but he said, it's been taken away, and you can get it back, but you don't have it once you go through these gates. You've done something to put you here. You don't have any freedom. So that's pretty good. Another story of him, I got him on my mind. He took me to, I don't know if you know the history of Maury Stewart, creepy hair cutter in White Bluff forever.
I've heard of him. Okay.
Yeah, he cut hair forever. He had a little barbershop, and it remind you of Floyd's on Andy Griffin. I mean, you go in there and there's always 8 or 10 people sitting around telling them something.
Yeah.
We went up there one Saturday morning to get a haircut, and the new thing there was it had a Coke machine. Nobody had seen a Coke machine before. I had seen them, but he had. Nobody else had. But anyway, they talked about it. My grandfather wasn't a whole lot of talker. He would laugh and smile, but he wasn't a big talker. So I listened to him. We got our haircut and left, and we was driving back home. Over an old 53 Chevrolet. I'm driving along. He'd always reach over here and tell me something. He'd reach over and slap me on the shoulder. Boy. I said, yeah, Paul. He said, you see that machine in there? I said, yeah, that's a Coke machine, Paul. I've seen that. He said, you stay away from him. I said, stay away from a Coke machine? He said, yep, anything to back itself against the wall and challenge the world, you stay away from it. There's good stuff in there.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, he would tell me,
stay away from the Coke machine or not?
Nah, I hung with him. Yeah. But the theory behind it, I stayed away from.
Yeah.
You know, anything that's challenging the world, I'm shy of. You know, anything challenges God's rule, I'm not in there.
Anything looking to pick a fight just for the fun of it?
His other story was, boy, life's going to be tough. Said, you've already been tough. Said, you're living tough because my dad had left me. And he said, how you handle that tough? So what kind of man you going to be? And I said, what do you mean, Paul? He said, well, when you hear something or somebody tells you something, say, think to yourself. He said, his words was, chew on it. I thought, chew on it. He said, yeah, chew on it. If it tastes good, swallow it, go on about your business. He said, if it ain't right, spit it out. He said, if it don't taste good, spit it out. It ain't good. It's not from the Lord.
That's some good advice.
It was great advice. And that's what I said. Those two things have bettered my life a lot. But anyway, I loved him, and that's all I'll say, about him. I stayed with him. My grandmother, he passed away, and then I was back to riding John Parker school bus. I was back to riding it on Friday evenings, and I would bust her wood, stack it up on the porch, and stay with her during the weekend. Monday morning, ride it back. There's one thing I always noticed about John Parker school bus. You know, I'm sure you've probably been on a bus with a bunch of kids, and a lot of noise, a lot of carrying on. If that bus stopped, you could hear a pin drop. Somebody had done something. And Jam Up he was Miss Eileen Stewart's disciplinarian. If there was a paddling to get, he gave it out. And if he stopped that bus, somebody's fixing to get jerked off of it. He'd take his belt off, and he'd straighten you out, put you back on, go on about your business. You know, today he'd probably be in jail.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah. But he's a good guy. I mean, John was a good guy. That's just the way it was.
You know, one of the things I've heard about Miss Stewart, I didn't get to know her, was that she was just ahead of her time in education. What she did with special needs kids, how hard she invested in people, the discipline, building the kindergarten, and we're sitting in the room that was the kindergarten, pre-K, first grade.
Yeah, I went to school. Right here in that white building right here. Yeah, I love Miss Eileen. I like Burns. They had a math teacher there, and all the things. His name was Decimal Dan Dooge.
Decimal
Dan Dooge, tough guy, scar on his head, forehead, built like a linebacker, but a great guy. And as we was going to school wasn't never that important to me. And I would get along, but he had this plan to where when you got in his class, the person with the highest grade got set up here, and lowest was way over here.
Oh.
Well, I started out over here. Yeah. By the end of the year, I was sitting right here.
Really?
And that was all because of him.
Yeah.
He encouraged me, showed me, and he was a good guy. I think a lot about. And he was where he come from? He was an old stuntman from California.
Stuntman, like for the movies?
Yeah, movie stuntman. He was in one of the monster shows. He used to always tell us.
Really?
Can't remember which one it was, but he was in there.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I never would have imagined that was what you're going to tell me.
Yeah. Well, it's just, things run through your mind. But anyway.
It's a place with some cool history.
Huh?
Burns is a neat community with some neat history.
Oh, yeah. Burns there's a lot of tales I can tell you about people in Burns. I don't know. Blake Welch, you ever hear about Blake? And there's Arlie Deal. Have you heard of Arlie?
I have.
Yeah, Harley was a great guy. Picked up hay with him many a day. His mom was about the size of, I don't know if there's anybody in church small as her. She's a little bitty woman.
Yeah.
He's 7'4", 7'6", weighed 500-600 pounds, and picks up hay and throws it at you like it is. But you go over there, he would take you over to his mom's and feed you lunch. You work with him. Man, what good food she cooked. And a little bitty woman, but he was road commissioner. He was so big, he drove an old 1-ton flatbed, and he was so big, he'd sit on that side, and you could see it going down the road. Truck going down the road like that.
You could just see it kind of leaning.
Yeah.
Wow.
Poor old diabetes in him. He had diabetes so bad, he'd have his boots looked like he had. As a matter of fact, they had these boots in Nixie's Hardware.
Really?
When they sold it. Somebody bought them, but he would have to slit them.
So
because his feet would swell so much.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of good guys. Pedro Gray, Bobby Gray. I used to admire him something ever.
Yeah.
They had the ball field here in Burns at that time had another grandstand, a wooden grandstand.
Really?
Yeah, and so they had men's baseball teams. He played state stove. Man, he could hit a ball.
Yeah.
But anyway, a lot of people in Burns, good people. Love living in Burns, got a lot of good life lessons. But
Burns is not the only place you've been.
I've been around.
Been everywhere, man.
Yeah.
There's a song about that.
Yeah, But anyway, we moved back to White Bluff. And about the time they built this gym, we moved. I was playing basketball my 7th grade year for Coach C.T. Keel, and we moved to White Bluff. Ended up playing there. But we moved in a house, a Jones home, they call them, back in. Jones built them, and you finished them. Okay. And so my mom had a piece of property. We built a house. And that summer, me and my older brother, younger brother, it had a bathroom, but it didn't have the septic and field line. We hand dug them that summer. And to be honest, and they'll agree with you, I dug 90% of it. I bet. But anyway, we lived there till my mom, don't want to get ahead of myself, but, I loved my Lord. I loved the Lord a whole lot when my granddaddy was alive. We didn't go as much after he passed on.
Yeah.
And it was just, both of them worked and this, that, and the other. But we lived there in White Bluff, and I did go to Vacation Bible School, went to the youth things and this, that, things that they had then was, every so often the young people would lead service. I'd get up and bellow like a cow, like I could sing. Good thing about singing, I was at tell everybody, you know, I'll do anything in church. I said, I've been asked to lead singing once.
You don't get asked the second time.
I don't get that. I've never been asked the second time. I don't blame them. Yeah, I make that joyful noise. I love that.
That's the best.
Yeah. But anyway, we lived there in White Bluff, went to school at high school in White Bluff and junior high, and enjoyed it. Made a bunch of good friends. Mosleys, became real good friends with the Mosleys, you know.
Started Camp Leatherwood.
Yeah, the Colonel. It's Leatherwood, I built a lot of it. And Donnie was a year or two behind me, but you know how you always have pickup teams. Bench Center was there in White Bluff. We played basketball. If it wasn't playing a ball, some kind of ball, and then after school, we'd all meet and play basketball. I always chose Donnie. He'd give you all he could. And then when it's time for him to go, you know, when General or would come by and say, Don, time to go, he'd gone. And I used to be amazed how much he loved the Lord to never question that. He'd gone.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if he was scoring more points than anybody, defense, it didn't matter. He'd gone.
You just go.
Yeah, and I liked that. But and I began to think about that and think about my walk with the Lord more because I admired Donnie so much. But anyway, I was about 13, ninth grade, I think, and sister and I had to go to summer school. And then back in, it was just kind of showing up and reading through his book, and you got passed. Most of the time at White Bluff, I got passed along anyway because I was good in sports, and they didn't want to call me back.
Right.
So they didn't teach me to read, but they told me that if I was good at something, I could move on. So I don't know what that was.
Lesson sometimes.
It didn't work too good. No, I've suffered a lot of years because of that. But anyway, I had a cousin came in one summer. I think it was August 6th, and we'd like with a week being done with summer school. And he came in, a long look on his face, and I thought, well, what's wrong with Joe? And my mom had been killed in a car accident that morning.
Oh.
And so the strong people in my life had been my grandfather, who I didn't get to spend much time with. And then came would be my mom, who I thought the world of, and she worked, I know how hard she worked. There was 6 of us siblings in, and but she got killed in a car wreck.
And how old were you?
13. Actually, I was fixing to be 13 in about a week.
Okay.
There was one of my aunts was going to give me a 13th birthday party. But anyway.
Wow. You talk about a tough time in life to lose your mom, though.
It was a tough time, and I had a tough time getting over it. And the reason the biggest tough time I had getting over it is I just got madder and far at God.
Yeah.
You know, he kept telling me how much, how good God was and how he loved you and do all this. And he took my father, my grandfather, and now my mom. I was mad. I said, what the weird thing was, I've been in prayer all my life. I've been started praying when I was young. I guess my grandfather taught me to pray. Speaking of my grandfather, I wanted to add this in there. Both my grandfathers worked on Cheatham Dam.
Really?
Mm-hmm. My grandfather on my dad's side broke ground with no mules and shovels and dug it out. My grandfather on my mom's side was a carpenter, and he flung concrete.
Really?
Yeah. So they both worked on it. So I always, when I'm around there, I just think about that, especially. Anyway, I didn't mean to jump away from that. Okay. But anyway, I was bitter, and stepfather never had a great relationship with. And one reason why, he was pretty young. He wasn't much older than us. And I'm not sure how him and my mom got together. Lived in the same holler, is all I can say. Right. One lived on this side of the creek, and the other lived here. But anyway, and he was driving the car, so there was some resentment there. It wasn't his fault. Somebody turned right into him. But
when you're 13 and grieving, it's not about the logic.
Yeah. Well, you don't have any logic.
Right.
And you're mad at the Lord. So
you're just mad.
Yeah, you're just mad. And so I was pretty rowdy. Got pretty rowdy, do whatever and whenever I wanted to. He was in the hospital a long time, so they shifted us around from aunt to uncle to whatever until he got out. Well, he got out within a few months. He married some of them, a lady with 6 more kids.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's what, oh man. And I tried to be decent about it. I worked. If I wasn't playing ball, I was working. I worked at the Reader's service station here in Burns when I was in high school, early school. And then, because I had to come back here, but I was still going to White Bluff. Getting a ride to White Bluff because I wasn't going to Dixon. And, but anyway, it kind of came to a head one night, and you know, I told him how I was done with him and done with them, and just left. And went to my grandparents, Griffins, and Papa and Grandmama. I loved them. They were good people. Hard. They went to Pleasant View. He was one of the leaders, but lived with them through high school. And by then, my dad had came back, and he lived there too, but there wasn't much of a relationship. He was just there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But excuse me, after they died, and here come a cousin of mine. He's a good guy. He's a preacher. You ain't heard of him, Joe Story, from out of West Tennessee. But he came, and he decided he put the guilt trip on me that I need to be baptized. And he done a good job because I was baptized. You know,
Yeah.
Felt guilty enough that I need to be baptized. And, you know, he would feed me a story. If you want to see your grandfather and mom again, you got to do this. And yeah. So, okay. But I never did. It wasn't a heartfelt baptism. It was pleased some people.
You did it so you wouldn't feel bad.
Yeah. Still felt bad.
Yeah.
But I was going to tell you, I've always prayed. Even when I was mad at the Lord, I'd pray at night.
Yeah.
That's weird, ain't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's weird.
Did you tell him you're mad at him? Or
Yeah, I told him I would say if sometime and maybe, and if you think, you know, I'd try to just, I don't know, I guess I just get things off my mind and then nobody else to get it off to. So
Yeah.
I just rattled him. But my church life up to that point had always been pretty much the old dogmatic Church of Christ. It was, we're number one, nobody else could hang with us. And if you're not doing what we're doing, it ain't doing you no good wherever you're going.
Yeah.
You know, that's just the way you are. And so I didn't know. My brother had married. He married a girl from Church of God who loved God and was wonderful at it. And I thought, there ain't no way if she's not going to heaven, that I can get there.
Yeah.
I mean,
This doesn't make sense.
yeah, it don't make no sense. But anyway, so we progressed on, and I was doing okay, and finally got through school. Went to, I don't know why I did it, but at that time, computers were just coming alive.
Okay.
This is in '69. So I had a piece of money left from my mom that was divided up, and it was enough for me to take a year of Falls Business College
Really?
up in Nashville.
Okay.
And they had a computer, and that one computer fit in their whole basement.
Mm-hmm.
It was large.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't probably, I'm sure there wasn't in this building.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you had all the key punch and all this and that. And I loved outside stuff. I don't even know why I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did it. Yeah, I do it. And I made a lot of good friends and never did really catch on to computers.
Wasn't really your thing.
Yeah. So I spent my year and spent my money and wondered why I did it. But finally got back out and started going to doing work I enjoyed doing, carpentry. I loved outside, loved doing whatever I could do outside. And but in between those places, when I was a teenager, there was a place, and I'll back up a little, a place in Dixon. It's where the Hope Center is now. You know where the Hope Center is, right there, right behind Dale Reagan's,
Oh, yeah.
the big old building.
Yes.
Friend of mine, a good friend of mine, owned it at that time. His name was Ferris Brown.
Okay.
Bunyan Brown, everybody called him. He put in a teen center.
Really?
Yeah. Put in a teen center, had bands, and you go there, and they have a band up Friday, Saturday night, and you can dance and just meet kids and do around. Well, I was there one Saturday night and met Marcia.
Yeah.
You know, I was pretty inebriated.
Okay.
I can remember her eyes. That's about it.
Oh.
And a friend of mine, he said the next night, he said, Joe, I asked her out to go drive in with us. And I said, Richard, I don't even remember what she looks like. He said, she could. So I asked her, and she went, but we friends. We never dated a little here and there, but just friends, and kind of went our own way and just stayed friends. As a matter of fact, I spent my last 2 or 3 years of high school dating her best friend.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we were tight. I mean, I figured I was who I was going to end up with. And, but, life didn't turn out that way. It didn't. I ended up, in Nashville, when I was living in Nashville, I lived with these 3 other guys. We lived in an apartment out off Evans and Pike there. I worked at a wire place as a shipping clerk. So I worked, went to school, and partied around, just done whatever, and then ran into Marcia, and we struck back up a relationship.
Yeah.
And but that relationship developed into me asking her to marry me, and the heck of it, she said, yeah. I didn't know why, but she did. But she stole my heart, and I love her and have for going 53 years.
53.
She and her family were different than mine.
Yeah.
They was huggers and loved each other, and tell you love you, and this, that, and the other, and mine was hadn't been that good. A story I wanted to back up to, and I keep missing parts.
That's okay.
I hadn't played this in my mind, so I just figured the Lord take care of it.
Hey, I'm getting it all the first time, so it's all right.
So my younger brother, Pierre, Pierre Adams' dad.
Yeah.
When I left that night from my stepfather's here in Burns, I looked at him and I said, the day I get my driver's license, I'm coming after you. And that was probably 2 years later. My sister-in-law took me to get my driver's license. On the way home, I stopped and got him and brought him to Papa and Grandmama's, and he lived there with us.
Really?
But, so good relationship,
He's good people.
Huh?
He and Charlene are just great people.
Oh, yeah, they are. They are. I can tell you forever stories on them, but anyway.
We'll record those, but we'll use them against him later. We won't publish those unless he doesn't do what we want.
But he was always the manager of whatever team we was playing. I played baseball, football, basketball, or in track. Then plays. If it was at White Bluff, I was into it. And but he was always just a supporter, and he loved doing it. But anyway, so I went and got him, and that was my backup to make sure I got that into my story, because
that's important.
I loved him, and he needed to be out of that situation he was in.
Yeah.
And so Marcia said, yeah, we got married, and was living up on Edmondson off of Harding Place in Nashville in some apartments, and I was working for an engineering company doing surveying. One of the best things I ever did, because they taught me how to read plans real good.
Okay.
It was just kind of a work and learn. And the guy who owned it was a good guy, and so I worked there a couple of years. And we were living there, and one day I had a cousin call and ask me. His name was Buford Jocelyn. Doug.
Yeah.
His brother, the one just passed away not long ago. He called me, and him and his wife had having some troubles, and they owned a house there on 47. Hadn't been built but maybe 6 months. New house, Russ Moore built it. He called and he said, Al, you don't worry, my house is being ready to get into divorce. So I need to do something with the house. And I said, Buford, I can't afford your house. And he said, what are you paying up there? And I told him, he said, it's $100 a month. June 4, that's what you're paying there. So I said, okay. So we moved back to White Bluff, $100 a month. Might have been there 6 months, 8 months, and Buford called me one day. He said, you want to buy a house? I said, Buford, I can't buy this house. I'm making $50 a week. Marcia's making $58. She made a little more than me, I think. And he said, I said, what do you want for it? And he said, just take over the payments. I bought a 3-bedroom brick for less than $15,000.
I just want you to know that everyone in my generation right now hates you. Okay, $100 a month. I don't even pay my insurance.
Yeah. So that, that's definitely from the Lord. But that started my walk with the Lord more than anything, where I ended up right there.
Just being
being right there in White Bluff around people that I knew, and I knew a lot of people at the church. I was one of those people, I still mad at God. Marcia was mellowing me because I seen something in her I hadn't seen in other Christians.
Yeah.
But And I would always have the old excuse, I don't have to go there to be a hypocrite. There's no hypocrites there. I don't have to go there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so they had a bus program, and the bus would stop, pick up our little girl. By that time, we had Holly, and having Holly, I wanted to get that story in there. Having Holly was a wonderful thing. She was born in Donaldson Hospital, out there, not Donaldson, Madison Hospital. And the excitement I had of her birth was I never understood. I never knew you could be excited.
It's a pretty cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what? There was nobody there but me.
Yeah.
Nobody there but me. And, of course, back in, you couldn't go watch them be burned.
Yeah.
So I was just standing there at that window looking at her thinking, wow. And I turned around, you know what? My uncle was standing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, how on earth he know? Another great guy in my life that, I don't know if you ever got Justin talking about him or not. It's Justin's granddaddy.
Okay.
His name was Lester Dawson. He worked at Nashville Bridge for years, and he preached every Sunday somewhere. He went to Nashville School of Preaching, was a preacher, and they would always ask him, I called him Daddy Elect. That's what he meant to me. And people would ask him, so Lester, won't you get a job in full-time church and preach? He said, no, so I never want the elders telling me how I can preach.
There's something to that.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Wonderful man. Ain't Ruby now. That was my mom's sister, their grandmother. Okay. She's a horse with a different color, but anyway, you loved her, but she's amazing. But I love Dr. Lester.
To connect the dots for people in case they didn't realize it, Justin has already done an episode several ago, and Steve Holliday, who married Holly, has done one. So, if you listen to those, you're going to get more of the family story in here, too.
Yeah. But anyway, I love Dr. Lester, and I just wanted to make sure I covered him because I did.
Special man.
But I couldn't tell you the feeling. I turned around, and there he was. What are you doing? How'd you know? I hadn't told nobody.
Yeah.
There he was. Ain't no telling what he had come from. He lived over off Charlotte Park, right there off American Road.
It wasn't like now when it's on social media, you get a text message.
No, he was just there. And man, what a blessing that was. If I run too long, shut me off.
You're good.
But I need to get on anyway. But we got to White Bluff, and the workshop was pumping up at White Bluff. And I don't know if you ever knew much about it, but Marcia had went with a bunch of them people, and I made sure she went to Tulsa a year or two before they started ours.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them went, and I scraped up enough money for her to go, and she went out there on a shoestring and came back, and she was just, I just couldn't, I didn't know what to do with her. She just was jabbing about this, what she heard, what she seen, what the Lord do, what this, that. And so the bus started coming by, and by then we'd had Ollie, and she was up big enough to ride the bus. Wes had came along too, but he was still a baby. But she'd waddle out there to the bus and get on it every day, And so Marcia, who hadn't been real faithful in church, went back to church, and she got faithful. I built I don't know if they still have it, but I built the nursery furniture at White Bluff Church.
Really?
Those little tables that are round, little bit chairs.
Yeah. I call them the bucket seats.
Yeah.
Because the kids can't get out of them. Yeah. They're in like little buckets.
I built those for her class. She was to start
So back up just a second. Marcia went to Tulsa in the stage where she wasn't really all in.
Mm-hmm. Well, she loved the Lord, but she...
Right. I'm not saying she was a heathen, but it was before she was... What caused her to go? Do you know?
Just the excitement there at church.
Just people excited.
There's about 40 some of them going. Okay. Jerry Butler's a big... Jerry Butler?
Yeah, I know Jerry.
Yeah, he was a big influence, and some others talked her into going, so I convinced her she'd go. She went out there on like $15. The room was paid for. I think somebody paid for it, but and Smith said he came back and she was just on fire with it. And anyway, from that came the workshop. And when the workshop here at White Bluff again, I went to the first one, and I began to go. I wasn't real. I was pretty steady, but I wasn't real steady. But I began to go, and workshop came, and Terry Rush came. He spoke. You ever know Terry?
I love him, yeah.
he came, and Marvin Phillips, and Jeff Wallen, they had a good lineup of people, and they came, but they had a youth speaker that taught at the high school up there. His name was Dick Weber. You ever hear Dick?
No.
Actually, he was the one that solved the mystery there in Atlanta of the guy that was killing all them black people.
Really?
Yeah, he was one of the lead detectives on it, but he's a Christian.
Really?
And he was a tough Christian. And so I was up there. They asked me to help them keep parking and work up there that day at school. So I did, and I went in when everything was settled. And Brooks Duke, I don't know if you know Brooks, but he was over the youth.
No, Brooks. Yeah.
And Brooks was looking at his watch. He's looking all around trying to figure out where Dick Weber was.
Yeah.
And there's this guy up there, looked like come out of Hell's Angels, the sleeveless jacket and chain. And so when he started talking about it, and this guy started walking toward Brooks, it's Dick Weber. And his first words to the kids and everybody else in there was, I thought I was coming to a soul-winning workshop. He said, I've been here an hour, ain't nobody asked me about my soul. And then he went home from there, and he turned out to be a great guy. I loved him to death. And but that was a big influence. But back to that night, Terry was preaching on mediocrity. You either in or you out.
Yeah.
And the Lord pricked my heart and said, it's time, Big Al. You do something. And I never had mentioned it, never talked to anybody. I just stood up, walked down front, and came a lap back over to the Lord. And I told them then, and I told the Lord, I said, I don't know what I can do for you, but whatever it is, if you ask me to do it, I'll do it. And I have to say that was a lot of years ago. I still have that same feeling. I never told the Lord no, that I know of. I may have done things that way made him wish I'd said no, but I never told him no. But anyway, so I got back in church, started driving the bus and teaching and working around. My company I was with sent us to Florida, Jupiter, Florida, right out of Jupiter, a place called Palm Beach Gardens. And there's an island out there, and we were building a condo on it. And the superintendent, chose me to go. And first of all, I was going to go and let Marcia and them stay here, and we said that couldn't work. So we rented our house, the little brick we had, and went down there for, I don't know, supposed to been a year. It was over a year, but went into a church down there. There was two churches. There was a big church, Palm Beach Gardens, Palm Beach Lakes. Then there was a little church. And we went to both, and I told Marcia, I said, I feel pretty good about this little church. The guy that preached there, his name was Frank Griffin, and Rose, and they were old. They was in their 80s probably. But we met with them the first Sunday we went in there, visited him, came back, told him we thought we'd like to be a part of the church. Frank looked up and made a smile, and he said, good, Brother Griffin, you laid prayer this morning. I never led an opening prayer. A prayer in church in my life. But you know what? That was the best thing I could have ever done. Yeah. Because I didn't sit and fret and worry and wonder if I could do it. I got up and mumbled something, come back, sat down, asked Marshall, I said, anybody understand anything I said? But that was a great thing for me. And I've used that a lot with youth over the years, a lot. Yeah. It just put them on the spot. Don't give them time to think about it.
No, they'll give them an excuse or we're so sick.
Yeah, but anyway.
I think the same thing's true for grown-ups, too, by the way. I think
it is.
You rip the Band-Aid off for people.
Yeah. And they like to hang on that Band-Aid.
Yeah, they do.
Whatever. But anyway, we came back and worked hard at church, drove the bus three times a week, 110 degrees or 5 degrees. We'd drive in them buses. Marcia would teach, I'd drive, and got building relationships with kids around there and working this, that, and the other. And before long, Brooks left, and the Shepherds said, when you was involved with them so much, said, do you think you can take care of the youth? I said, sure. I didn't know, but why not? But in between there, I started going to Tulsa, too, on those trips. And it was an eye-opener, I seen things I'd never seen, heard things I'd never heard. There was a Holy Spirit that I didn't think was anywhere within that book. And Jesus loved me. He died on the cross for me, not just died, but he died for me. And, I started understanding a lot of that stuff and reading. I started studying a lot. I wasn't a big studier, but I started studying God's Word. And so I became the youth director and had a great bunch of kids. And I had them because, like I said, I never gave them a lot of chance to say no.
Yeah.
I'd just say, hey, Scott, you doing the prayer tonight? And we had I know it's hard to believe, but for, 12, 13 years, we had a devotional every Sunday night somewhere. And the first year, I'd meet with the parents, and I'd say, listen, if you won't have us at your house on a Sunday night, that's marvelous. But I said, I'm bringing, and it got pretty big. I had 30 or 40. That's pretty big for White Bluff.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm bringing them, and I said, if you got stuff in your house you don't want broke, you either put it up or you don't want it there.
Yeah.
I said, that's just the way it is, and there's no hard feelings, but if you don't want us to come, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then many a night we met just outside, build a fire outside somewhere, but a lot of them wanted us.
Yeah.
And so we started doing that. I even taught a class there, one of the hardest classes I guess I've ever taught. I decided that the youth and the parents needed to understand each other better.
Oh, yeah.
Because the parents are here protecting their kids. Don't want them doing this, don't want them seeing this, don't want them doing this. And the kids are right here, fixing to get out of high school and go to college and not have a clue.
Yeah.
Hadn't seen it, doesn't know what to do with all this. So I taught a class about that, and it was a tough class. You had parents who thought I was an idiot, and you'd have arguments down there between parents and them, but I think it was a good thing. Excuse me.
Don't worry about it. Oh, you all good?
Yeah. So I had that. We kept on. Youth was real good. I was running a business and doing the youth, running a construction business, and Marsha was keeping my books and part of the time she's working, she's doing, so we were busy, too busy. But the kids loved us, and we loved the kids, and they knew it. I figured out exactly what the kids want.
Yeah.
And you probably know it about as good as anybody. Kids just want somebody to listen to them. That's all they want.
Yeah.
Just
to be heard.
Yeah, they got something on their mind. They won't be able to say, this is what's on my mind. Yeah. And that's what I pushed all the time. And I've had some sit down and talks with a lot of them that in my mind was going, wow. But I didn't ever show it, or I don't think I did. But they needed that, and they needed their parents to be that person. And that's what I kept all the time trying to push for and to work. But anyway, we stayed there a long time, and then Holly, Steve met each other. She went off to school, and she's going to get married. They were going to get married. Steve was looking for a summer job, so I asked to talk to the guys there at church, and I said, why don't you make him an intern and give me a break this summer? And they said, okay. And I had a pretty good relationship with most of the kids, most of the elders.
Yeah.
And they would let me teach what I wanted to, do things I wanted to do. I mean, we were having one of the biggest kicks I'm ever, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, the...
that was going to be a good story.
Yeah, Steve was fifth year senior from Freed, Rhodes Scholar, pretty smart, good music guy. And he came in and started doing things with them. And he'd done a lot of them there at church. Well, I'd get rebuttals from somebody about, hey, we found hot dogs in the foyer and pews and this, that.
Oh, no.
I said, and something got broke. And so I told him, I had a meeting. I called the elders again and said, listen, Steve's not me. He's not doing things the way I do him. He's doing the way he thinks best. And I said, I trust him. I said, I tell you what, anything gets tore up or broke here at this church, I'll fix. I'll pay for it and fix it. But I said, and one of the elders was pretty strong about church being a temple, and we didn't have no business in there in the temple. And so anyway, it's kind of they had a little downfall from there, and we kept going to Tulsa, and they decided Tulsa wasn't good anymore, and this, that, and the other, and there kindled up a fire between kind of me and them, and anyway, so
Things just kind of went downhill.
Yeah. When a couple of elders died, and there's people at church wanting me to be an elder. I was too young to be an elder. I didn't want to be an elder. But they thought I would be an elder. Me and Bert, at this time, one of the greatest guys there at church. I've always loved him to death, Jerry Butler. You know, the eldership didn't want Jerry Butler to be an elder. Like he'd been a marvelous elder, but that's me. And so, and there was a firestorm blew up, and so finally, Marcia and I decided we'd have a meeting with them. One thing is this one elder was always on my back when we had a retreat with Walnut Street every fall, and it was a big retreat. I mean, we would have 140 kids. We'd go eat up 10 forward, take every cabin, everything they had, and spend the weekend. Well, usually the weekend that they had the day off, teachers meeting, anyway. But in those weekends, we got to where we'd take communion at 12:01.
Yeah.
Saturday night. And this one elder had just tore him all the bases. And he got to tell me about some speakers out in Tulsa. And I telling him, I didn't defend them. I just told him what I heard and what I thought. And so he called me one time. And he said, and I was bringing back tapes. I said, listen to these tapes. I brought back this one guy who was speaking. And I said, listen to this tape. He called me back one Sunday night right after church. He said, I've listened to this tape about 15 times now. And he said, and I've got it. I said, what you got? He said, right here where he's talking about mid juleps. That's an alcoholic drink. All that good lesson that was in this thing.
He listened to it 15 times to
pick out
what's wrong with it.
To pick that out. And so I told Marshall, I said, we need to meet with the elders to clear this stuff up. So we met with them, and the same guy, we was meeting, talking, and they were upset because I still they had asked people not to go to Tulsa anymore. They felt like it's bad. So the workshop there at White Bluff had died, and so we continued to go. I even took the youth one time, took 40-something youth out there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and they loved it. And came back different people. Anyway, and so we were fixing to leave, and never will forget, we was fixing to leave, and Marcia says, wait a minute. Grabbed me in my arm and said, wait a minute. She said, this ain't right. She says, just what is it you have against Al? So tell it. We won't know before we leave here. And this one elder opened up his book and started reading things that I didn't think I ought to be doing. I wasn't doing right. And I was teaching too much about Rahab. Well, you glorifying whoreism or something like that was how it come across. And then I was just talking about lineage. I was taking a class on lineage.
Yeah.
But anyway, so things kind of blew up that night, and I got up and walked away, and I said, listen, I've been here 20-something years. I'm married. My kids been born here. I married my daughter here. I said, we're out. We're gone. And
that must have been painful.
It was terrible painful. The good thing was Marcia had all kind of family in Walnut Street, so
right.
Just drifted off down there, and then we went up to the bad part about the whole bit was my son was about 13 or 14 years old and all that's going on.
Right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle of it. And had seen us pour out sweat and blood, stay up all night, do everything we could, and then get treated this way. So that's part of his bitterness, but he's coming out of it. And the Lord's blessing, he's coming. But anyway.
Hang on. Can I stop you for a second?
Mm-hmm.
How did you make it through this without getting bitter?
My bitterness had gone away when I understood exactly what Jesus did. I didn't understand it when I was younger and bitter.
Yeah.
I didn't understand God, didn't understand Jesus, didn't know grace, knew nothing about grace, didn't know nothing about the Holy Spirit. I had studied a bunch in between these two times.
Yeah.
And when I made that promise that time to God that I would do whatever he asked of me, because he says, I ain't going to ask of you what you can't take. Mm-hmm. And it ain't in there exactly those words, but that's what he says. And so I didn't get bitter. I had all kind of brothers and sisters from White Bluff come talk to me, tell me that, how much good I could do, what problem's going to come. And so finally I told him, I said, listen, I'll come to a meeting with the elders. You can get anybody you want there and we'll talk this out. But I said, I will not be a part of a church who keeps a book of records on people's wrongs.
Yeah.
I said, I just can't be a part of that.
That's not okay.
And so we had that meeting, and a lot of people backed in behind me and spoke up and this, that, and the other, and thought everything would be okay, but it wasn't okay. I wasn't going back there.
Yeah.
I wasn't going back there with that leadership, put it
Right.
that way. In the leadership, I'd always backed the leadership. And you know how leaderships are. I remember one time we were having this big rigmarole, and we had it every year around prom time. Kids want to know about dancing and lasciviousness and this, that, and the other. And so I thought, I'll just go talk to the elders. So I called them each one by one.
Yeah.
And asked them, what do you think about this? What's your answer on this? You know what I got? 6 different answers.
Yeah.
6 different
That's
answers.
the joy of church work, isn't it?
I left there that night and I said, this ain't right. I said, if I want an answer, I'm going to get it out of this book.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer for me. And that's what he says. It's up for each person to work out your own salvation. It ain't for, an elder, and I've been an elder for a lot of years, and I know how it can weigh on you, and it's a lot of responsibility, but it's not for me to make you be a Christian.
No, I think that point's huge because I think I've seen some men be elders over the years who almost buckled under the weight because they felt a responsibility. It's almost like they felt that they were responsible for everyone's souls.
Yeah.
And that's not it. I've seen this thing on Facebook. It says, Judas had the perfect teacher and he still fell away.
Mm-hmm.
I think being an elder is a big responsibility. I do, but it's not the responsibility that sometimes people make it out to. Our elders are not responsible for every word and every thought that this church has. They're responsible for feeding, protecting, and loving.
Yeah.
And that job's hard enough.
What is an elder? He's a shepherd.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's a shepherd do? Takes care of the sheep.
Feeds them.
Yeah.
Takes them to the vet. Beats the wolves. I mean.
I read this, and sometime I told David Broughton sometime I'd love to do a class on 23rd Psalm and shepherding. Bill Lawrence done it for me years ago before I became a shepherd, and I loved it. And I know I could get his stuff, but in his study of shepherds, it never hit me until he brought this up, and he studied pretty hard on it. He said if a shepherd had a wayward sheep that kept wandering off, and he kept going and getting them, had to leave the flock, and he'd find him stuck in the bush or in a crevice, he would break that sheep's leg.
Really?
For the full purpose that he had to tote that sheep till his leg was well. But that relationship is what Bill was selling, and what the shepherd was selling was, I'll take care of you.
So what you're telling me is the shepherd, what he really is supposed to do is write down in a book every time the sheep wanders away and then bring the sheep to a meeting and yell at it for did I get something wrong in here?
Have you pull out your book.
Yeah. Oh, well.
We didn't like you doing this. We didn't like it.
Your fur looks funny.
Guess what? Me and Marcia didn't like each other a lot of times too, but we've still been around 53 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Marriage doesn't solve your problems. It just makes you better.
Yeah.
It'll make you better if you work them out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was God's plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He says it's good for two of you not to be alone. When you're alone, and you've done it, I've done it, we start visualizing things. Mm-hmm. And when you visualize, you get somebody over here saying this is what you need to think, and this is how you need to do it, and then you got this one over here thinking this and this, But when you put all that away and think, well, how God handle this? Mm-hmm. How Jesus? Why did I deserve God's Son to hang on the cross for me? Why did I deserve that? Why did I get that blessing? And when you start asking yourself those questions, everything works.
Yeah.
Everything works. It's not a if and but everything will work. Now, it worked the way I wanted to. It will. I done a lesson one time at Pickering was preaching one time, and in that lesson, I know, and the reason I bring this up is I had a brother call me on it a few years later and told me how much he appreciated it. But the sum of it was, we all make decisions. Some are good decisions, some are not good decisions. I said, but because you tried that doesn't make you a failure.
Right.
You're not a failure. You just tried it, didn't work. Okay, wipe your feet off, try something else.
And I don't think churches. One thing I've tried to do is have experiments. Let's do experiments at church. So if I do an experiment, I've already given myself permission that it's okay if this doesn't turn out great. We knew that was a possibility. Mm-hmm. But if I do the same thing for all eternity, I know that's going to fail eventually. I've got to try things, and some of them aren't going to work. And that's okay.
Yeah, and Jews didn't want Jesus.
No.
Well, that was an experiment to them. That wasn't what they wanted.
That's right.
God said, here he is. And they said, nah, it ain't him. He's not your son.
No, we don't want this one.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's pretty much where I am. I love the Lord. I've taught. Another good thing that Marcia and I did, and I want to make sure we get that in there, is one time we were at Tulsa and we were doing this. Somebody done a lesson, I'm not sure who it was, but we left there with the understanding that Satan will burn you out in your church. Mm. He will put you doing this, and you ain't got time for God. Mm-hmm. And we looked at each other and thought, that's where we're at.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, we're burned out. He said, his lesson was, make your decision how you can honor God and glorify Him and go back home and do it.
Yeah.
We went back home and started the youth group.
Yeah.
Well, we could do that. But we couldn't do it by, I used to get the people for the Lord's Supper. I used to get the prayer. I used to get for the door assignments. I used to teach class. I used to drive the bus. That was just me. Marcia doing just as much. On the other hand, we just burn up. Didn't even have, and I've told my kids, I'm sorry I am, but we didn't have time for our own kids.
Yeah.
They were just a part of the group. And it's easy for a youth guy to get that way if you don't watch it. If you got kids, you gotta take care of them.
Youth work is extra tough because there is the expectation. Everything you're doing during family time. You're doing it at nights. You're going to ball games. The stage of life I'm in right now, I've told our elders, I said, you're not getting a lot of don't ask me for a lot of meetings on weeknights. I'll give you some, but I'm not going to give you a lot of those.
Well, you shouldn't be. You take care of your family.
Love
God and take care of your family.
Call me when the kids have graduated. You can have me all the weeknights. I gave you a lot of weeknights before then. I'll give you a lot of weeknights after. But right now, I'm not saying no to all of them. Shucks, I think you and I have a meeting next week. Right now, and of course, somebody dies, I'm going to go.
All right.
I'm not trying to not.
It's not an emergency, but you're just talking. You can be pulled apart, and the Lord didn't intend for that.
Part of good ministry is saying no to good things.
Church is a love letter to us, and we should enjoy a love letter. And the other thing that before I quit, I want to stress is how scared we are of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And that befuddles me.
We shouldn't be scared of it.
Over and over and over and over, God says, I'm going to leave you the Spirit. He's your helper.
Your comforter, your helper, your advocate, your seal, your guarantee.
Your guarantee that I've built you a house in heaven that's waiting on you.
He's your deposit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when people can't, and I understand, I'm not a dummy, I understand, if people can't see it, they're afraid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Point blank, if you can't see it, you're afraid of it. And even if the Lord has showed His presence to people, and they've come back telling about it, all of a sudden they're loony. They're the old loony brother. They used to be pretty smart, now they're loony.
Well, we have trouble even with Scripture, where you and I can look at the same words, and we might not agree with what they mean. The Holy Spirit, we can't even look at them together. So, man, that's real scary.
Yeah. But
we're doing better, though. I think we're really doing better.
We're getting there. Our problem is, and it's always been that problem. Gail Moses said this years ago. She said, the biggest problem is, Big Al, it says, our time works this way, and the Lord's time works this way.
Yeah.
I said, and she said, He sees things right now and 20 years away, and we see things right now and right now. That's it.
Yeah. In this moment.
Yeah. So but I wish people would embrace the Spirit. He's part of God's head. There's Him and Jesus and Spirit. And they're all three strong. He left the Spirit. He says, I left you this power. We're scared to death telling anybody, hey, I've got the power.
Yeah.
You get that cockeyed look. And, and you know, you see people going off there and talking about it. To me, I'm never worried about what people think or talk about me. You know, I love the Lord. I'm going to die loving the Lord, and I'm going to go to heaven. Now, in between there and then, if you need to talk to me, I'll talk with you. If you need to talk about me, then I can't stop you. But one thing I will do is I will pray, and I do mostly every day, every night, for a lot of things. I mean, my prayer list will go on for some hours. I will pray myself to sleep, wake up in the middle of the night, go pray again, go back to sleep. Wake up in the morning praying. I love to talk to the Lord because He's my Father.
Yeah.
You know, nobody else understands me like Him. He built me.
That's right.
He made me. He's put things in my path my whole lifetime for me to be where I'm at.
Yeah.
And He's never failed me.
Absolutely.
Even when I was mad at Him, He didn't fail me. I was mad at Him. He wasn't mad at me.
That's right.
And you know, and so it's when you get a hold of that relationship, you know, it's just a great thing.
Man, that's cool.
When you get a hold of that relationship, you know, I was asked to be an elder at Pickram, and I wanted to. I was reading in the Bible one time, and it talked about elders, and it says, and if you're an elder, then you are after a good work. And so I thought, I'm after a good work. I'm going to be an elder one of these days. Didn't know when or how or why.
Yeah.
But they asked me, and I never will forget the first meeting. I went to an eldership, to a meeting with them, and they started talking about, you do this, and you do this, and you're over this, and this. And there was a guy that was, he was a numbers guy.
Yeah.
And I guess he was probably the treasurer guy. And, but anyway, they got off on something and talking about this, and somebody was bringing in some statements somebody had said, and they'd heard this and this. And I said, wait a minute, guys. I said, when you asked me to be an elder, you asked me to shepherd this flock. And I said, I agreed to do that. But I said, number one, I'm here to save the lost. That's why I agreed to this. I'm not going to sit in these meetings. I won't be a part of it, and I can leave tonight. No problem.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be trying to save to save. I'm going to be after the lost.
And it's not about Sister Susie who's cranky and making her happy. You can spend every moment of the rest of your life trying to do that.
Still going to be cranky. But it's about saving the lost.
So I've asked some people about the story you told me today, about what happened in that era when, you know, we kind of started saying bad stuff about Tulsa and when they kept that record book on you. And I've asked some people what went wrong. And I'm not trying to run down anybody.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just obvious. White Bluff used to be a church of 800.
It was progressive.
And now it's struggling.
Yeah, too.
And the answer I've gotten from 2 or 3 people was fear got in us. We got afraid. And in our fear, we started being paranoid that somebody was going to believe wrong or teach wrong or do wrong. And if this happened, we might, and it was this fear stuff. And right where you started in your story, Al, you talked about how when you were baptized, you were scared and you were guilty. And when you left that
part I left out of there, I'll get back to too.
Go ahead.
When I was in Florida, that little bitty guy, the little 80-year-old guy, he re-baptized me. I was baptized because I wanted to be, not because I was scared into it or afraid, because I wanted.
I want to follow Jesus.
Yeah, I wanted to follow Jesus. And that little guy, it's funny, him and Rose, I asked him one time, the church was there and there's a house behind it, and Frank Rose lived in that house, and they built that house. And when they died, the house went to the church. And so I asked Frank one time, I said, Frank, where'd you come from? Where'd you preach at, this, that, and the other? He said, I wasn't a preacher. I said, what do you mean you wasn't a preacher? He said, no, I was a member of the Elks Club. Rose said, yeah, we went to the Elks Club every Saturday night. Wow. But he said, I found the Lord. He said, here I am now. Love that couple.
That's so cool.
And they just honest as they could be. they got real old. We'd go back there and visit. We moved back home. We'd go visit them some. And they'd talk about the angels in the house with them.
Oh, how cool.
That was cool. You know.
Again, stuff that people look at you sideways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't talk about the unseen realm, angels and demons and spirit. We're scared to.
And I've always wondered why. I always wondered why the Lord wouldn't have something for people to see. But if they seen it, it would be fake. You know, faith is me seeing the unseen.
That's right.
It's not seeing something that's going to make me do it or want me to do it or chase after. So it's, you know, it's just amazing the wisdom he uses in things and the wisdom that we try to make out of it. Yeah.
We try to do the exact opposite of what he's told us.
Yeah. Paul doesn't make a lick of sense. Never has.
No, you're right.
Yeah. Paul just don't make any sense, but God did. So it's
God chose him. God used him.
He used it. And so let the Spirit, ask the Spirit to lead you, and he will. It tells you in there, you know, you got to want the Spirit to lead you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't sit back and wait for it to come on you. Teenagers, their biggest question was always, how close can I get to sin without sinning?
Can I go with my girl?
Yeah.
You know?
How close can I get to sin and not sin?
Yeah.
That was their answer. You know what? Grown up same way.
Yep.
Same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when your question becomes, how close to Jesus can I get? That other question changes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can I tell you one of my preacher pet peeves?
Yeah.
The fruit of the Spirit is the work that the Spirit produces in his people. That's what the fruit of the Spirit is.
Mm-hmm.
But every year I go to churches and I'll hear these summer series where the fruit of the Spirit is, here's those things you need to work on. You need to be loving. You need to be joyful. You need to be peaceful. You need to be patient.
Here's your list. We're list people.
What Galatians says is the Spirit produces life in you. Just try to keep up with him. You know, don't resist him. Don't kick him. Don't weed his garden.
I'll use some names real quick. I don't know how much time I got, but there was this dynamic, and you may know him. Do you know Tony Woodall? You ever hear him?
I think I know that name. I'm not sure.
He was a youth minister at Madison Church.
Yeah.
Baptized 100 kids one summer. He spoke at Telfa. He came, I brought him to White Bluff to speak. And just got a pretty good relationship in him, and he was dynamic. I mean, he just had a way about kids flocking to him. And he had some good friends who were missionaries, went to Africa. And I don't know how much you know about Africa, but in Africa, and a lot of people don't know this, but in Africa, when you lay down and go to sleep at night, you're dead.
Yeah.
You know, there's several stages of death.
That's the belief that when you're asleep, you are dead.
Yeah. And that was their belief. And so these missionaries told Tony, came back, and they told Tony, said, we've seen some marvelous things over her. And they got into it, and they said, we've seen the dead come back alive. And Tony just thought that was marvelous things, started teaching the kids. You know what? Last time I seen Tony Woodall, selling washing machines at Sears.
Mm.
I tell you, he was seeing the unseen, but he didn't see it the way they want him to see it.
Mm.
So they just, well, you can't do that. And the devil said, ha, 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 ha.
And we ruined something beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Did God really say? No, it's there all the time, every day. Did he really say you'd surely do it? Yeah, it's there every day.
Wow, this has been fun.
It is. I'm probably jabbered too much.
No, this has been great. Thank you for sharing. You have given us lessons on grief, parenting, baseball, shepherding. At some point, I feel like I missed a lesson in construction, but you know.
Oh, yeah, I do, Bill. But
is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up? I don't want to cut you off.
I just want, if I had a prayer for all my brothers and sisters, is to open your eyes to the Spirit.
Mm.
And I don't mean open your eyes. I mean seek it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like seeking God and seeking Jesus. Seek the Spirit.
Yes.
Now, will he miraculously do something for you? I don't know.
Yeah, that's his call, not mine.
Yeah, it's not for me to say. A lot of people talk to me and say, well, what do you think about this? Because he said that and he thinks this. And I said, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's what he thinks, and that's what he...
I'm not the referee.
Yeah. Well, he, as you said a while ago, he read a scripture in the book. This is what it means to him. Yeah. I'm not going to judge him on that. This is what it means to me. And I'm not going to argue about it.
Yeah, if we're good friends, we can discuss it. But beyond that, I'm not here to debate you.
No.
I've got better things to do with my life than argue with you.
Biggest tool Satan has took away from us is God's word. And he turned it into a law book. And, you know, people defend their case.
Yes.
Defend, this is why I think this.
Yeah.
It's not about, he didn't write it to defend anything.
No.
He said, this is life and life ever after. And it's yours. No, it's me and you. Take it.
And the stuff that matters is clear.
Yeah.
You know, what does he want from us? Well, love God, love neighbor. What does he want from us? Love justice, walk humbly before your God, right? Mercy.
And there's all kind of stuff that when you study his word, there's all kind of stuff you'll do.
Yeah.
You won't argue about it. It's just point blank. There's a lot of point blank statements in there. But there's a whole lot of stuff, he just said, I'm going to leave that for you.
Yeah. And I don't need to spend my time in all of these debates about what happens if you do this way instead of this. Not my job.
That's pretty much what Paul did with the Corinthians.
Yeah.
You know, he number one didn't want them to praise him.
Yeah.
Didn't put him on the pedestal, him or Timothy or any of them. That he wanted them to know that he messed up. I mess up.
Here's all the things I've done.
Yeah. I mess up. I've been scared. I thought the Lord taking us. Yeah, you know, this is me talking.
Yeah.
You know, but it wasn't his will. You know,
gets a bad rap sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
Well, man, thanks for the encouragement, friends. Open your eyes to the Spirit of God. That's the best advice you're going to get all week.
Well, I agree.
Well, thanks for listening today, friends. Thanks for sharing this. I hate to ask you stuff like this because it feels weird and self-serving. Thanks for leaving us a review so other people will listen to it. I don't care about this. I don't get paid for this. I have probably things I should do with this time instead. But the whole reason for this is you hear way too much from me. You hear me preach on Sunday and teach on Wednesday and read stuff I write. You don't need to hear more of me. You need to hear more of the men and women, old and young, black and white in this church, and how they have walked with God, how they have lived. Because when you hear those stories, you're going to know it's the real deal. That's the point of this show. So I ask you to share it with a friend, leave a rating, not because I get paid for it. No. Because I want to help somebody. And if there's somebody who hears this podcast and opens their eyes to the Spirit of God when they're 20 instead of when they're 60, we have just changed a life. Really.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Anyway, that's what this is all about. Thanks for listening. And until next time, I can't wait to hear what God is up to in your story.
Thanks for listening to Rough Drafts. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you are at it, help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review. Until next time, let's keep looking for how God writes His love into our stories.